Welcome back to TapRooT TV. I'm Benny Hughes. Lives saved and performance improved. That's what we're going to talk about today. It's one of the reasons everybody goes and does what they do in this industry. There's a lot of unsung heroes out there that are saving lives every day because they've come into a company, they've implemented TapRooT, and maybe they've gone from having a couple of fatalities a year to having no fatalities a year. Or they've worked in a department where they were losing money and now they've started improving the performance of that department and now they're making money. Those are fantastic things that you're doing for your companies. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Mark's got 3 stories and we would like for you to listen to them today. And then at the end, we'd like for you to comment below on some successes that you've had. You all are those unsung heroes out there making these differences. So we definitely want to hear from you, and other people can learn from you as well. So let's listen in to Mark as he tells these 3 stories. Right before we get started, though, we would like to ask you to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already done so, and ring the notification bell so that you find out when we have these videos. We put them out every week, and we want to make sure that you get to see them. So let's get to Mark's summit session and hear some of these successes.
I got up and watched the news this morning. It's always a bad idea to do that. I watched 4 different news channels. By the time I was done watching 4 different news channels, I thought they ought to just put one of those, the symbols when they went off the air back in the day. I think they ought to just put one of those up and say, we've left, the earth is coming to an end. We've left to go to our cave. We want to be the last ones alive that don't have coronavirus. Because it is, watching the news is just so depressing. And I think, I'm here at the summit and it's a really inspiring environment. I look at people here and they're doing such good things. And, I'm in a different world. I'm in a different world from watching that news in the morning to coming here and enjoying the stories I hear about people improving performance. So what I thought I'd do is give you more of a motivational session by telling you stories that I've heard from TapRooT users, and then giving out some awards to TapRooT users who've done some good things lately. I guess I'd say this was the first time I realized our impact on fatalities. There was a company called Skyline Mines, and Skyline Mines was out west, underground coal mine, a direct coal mine to power plant operation. I think it's direct. Or either that or there was a power plant very nearby that they sold to. And they started using TapRooT, and I knew they'd done the training, and a couple of years went by. It was actually 3 years went by, and I got a call, and it was in December. It was before Christmas. And the guy said, hey, we've had a triple fatality, and I can't find a root cause. I want to talk it through with you. And I said, okay, sounds fine. Tell me the story. Read me your snap chart, right? And he says, well, it really isn't a work-related fatality, but we're claiming it because we want to pay these guys' widows whatever they get for, an on-the-job fatality, because it really wasn't an on-the-job fatality. It really was they were driving to training. They hadn't arrived at work yet. Drunk driver crossed the center line, hit him head on. They all 3 had their seatbelts on. They all 3 died. The drunk driver didn't die, of course. And the state police guy said there's nothing they could do. He crossed the center line at the last possible moment, hit him head on. He was going at a high rate of speed. Looks like they were going about what the speed limit was. And he couldn't tell us anything that could be done to stop this. And I just wondered what the root cause is. So I couldn't really help him too much of that. What we did is we went through and looked at safeguards, right? And what you realize when you're driving down a 2-lane road is you don't have much safeguards between you and a drunk driver. There's that little yellow line down the middle, and if they don't pay attention to it, there's pretty much when they come across the line at the last minute, there's nothing you can do. So we could not find a root cause. And I said, that's really sort of good news for you because it means there's nothing you as a corporation could have done. I mean, they even thought about making rules that you could only have 1 person in a car when driving to training. And, so only 1 person would get killed rather than 3. And I said, no, that doesn't make a lot of sense because then there'd be 3 times as many cars that could get hit. I mean, you'd reduce the number of fatalities in a particular accident, but you'd triple the odds of having an accident. So it was after I got off the phone with him that I realized Oh, and he told me while I was talking that they hadn't had a fatality in 3 years. They started using TapRooT about 6 months after using TapRooT. They'd had this great progress on improving performance. They'd stopped having fatalities. They cut their number of MSHA violations by like 75%. They had reduced their lost time injuries, or however you count it in the mining industry, lost fingers, whatever it is. And they really had made great strides. And after I got off the phone with him, I realized, well, they were killing 2 or 3 people a year before that. And here it is 3 years later, no fatalities except for these. I really didn't count these. That's like somewhere between 6 and 9 people are going home for Christmas this year that wouldn't have gone home otherwise. And that was just, I remember that was just like a light going off, just like a, wow. Because we don't usually get that kind of feedback. We do TapRooT training. We help people learn. They go back. Sometimes they come back and tell us success stories, but a lot of times we don't hear about those success stories. So I passed that on to my staff, and they were all blown away too. We actually told them at the Christmas party about it, and they were like, wow. So it was a couple of years later than that, after that, it was at one of the summits. This one was up in Gatlinburg, and a guy came up to me he said, hey, listen, you might not know me, but I work at a small refinery, and we implemented TapRooT about 4 years ago, and we used to have fatalities, and we don't have them anymore. And I was thinking about it. This is him saying this. I was thinking about it, and I thought, we probably have 3 people who are alive today because of the work we're doing using TapRooT to prevent accidents. And he said, then I got thinking about how many people you train, and there's probably like hundreds or thousands of people alive who wouldn't have been alive otherwise. And I want to thank you for what you do. That sort of broke me up because I hadn't thought about it that way. I hadn't thought about what each and individual ones of you are doing out there to really change the world and keep people alive. And we don't get that. We don't go out and do many investigations. We do some. We do facilitations. And we get out there and we help people learn TapRooT, obviously. But we don't get that feeling from the field of, people are going home safe tonight that wouldn't have otherwise. So I just think that's really great. Another one is really fun. I was teaching a course in St. Louis, and it was a 2-day course, and there were 5 guys from the same facility. Whenever there's 5 people from the same facility, I always think there's something up, and I think I ought to go talk to them, find out why. But it was a busy course, and I didn't get a chance to. So about 6 months later, I'm teaching a course down in Orlando. Oh, they were from Houston, by the way. And I wondered, why were they in St. Louis? Now, I don't really count St. Louis as a vacation destination, but I thought there must be, maybe they all 5 wanted to see the arch or something, right? I don't know why. Why would they come up to St. Louis to get a course when they could have gone to a course in Houston? I didn't know. Didn't ask the question, didn't know why. So I'm in Orlando, and I'm doing a 5-day course, and these same 5 guys show up. And now I'm pretty sure, this is some kind of boondoggle, right? These guys got an infinite amount of money from their company. They can go wherever they want, do whatever they want. I don't know how it works, but I'm pretty sure if there are 5 of them in Orlando and they've only been 6 months since their 2-day, they must got some kind of deal. And I never got a chance to ask them, why are all 5 of you here? About 9 months after that, these same 5 guys show up at the summit. Well, now I can't stand it. I got to find out why. What are you guys doing? And where'd you get this infinite budget? And I still remember the guy's name was Jeremy Escobar. And I went to Jeremy and said, Jeremy, what are you doing here at the summit? How did you get to go to Orlando? Why did you go to St. Louis? Basically asked him all these questions. And he goes, well, let me tell you the story. And he said, the story goes like this. Our plant was basically going to get shut down. Our plant manager, we were losing money. We were losing money, and the corporate gurus had come in, and they'd all try to figure out how to make us make money, and they couldn't figure it out. So the plant manager got one of your brochures about root cause analysis, and Jeremy was an engineer. He told me for me to get me and somebody from corporate and somebody from maintenance and a couple of operators and go to your course. And that was the last ditch effort. We were going to try to find the root causes and see what we could do. So we came up to St. Louis and we went back. He said, day we got back, we started doing investigations. And he said, 3 shifts, 3 investigations. And what we soon found out was they were all the same. Every shift was running the plant the way they wanted to run it. So every shift turnover, we had to stop running it the way the last shift did because they don't know how to do business. And we had to change to the way the next shift was going to do it. And that got us about 30 minutes or more of, well, I'd say downtime, but it was wasted product that didn't meet spec while they changed over from one way to operate the plant to another way to operate the plant. And every 8 hours that was happening. So we were losing an hour and a half's worth of production, dumping it a day, just because everybody wanted to run it differently. He said by the 3rd investigation, we'd figured this out. And he said, I don't know how nobody else knew this. Oh, by the way, none of them were doing it by the procedure, right? They all had a better way. And so there were 4 shifts, but they only watched 3. I don't know how the 4th shift did it, but they got everybody in the room and said, listen, we're all going to lose our jobs if we don't figure this out. We have to agree on one way to run this place and one way only. And we have to do it that way 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if we can't do that, we're all going to get fired. So it was a good motivation for them to agree. They did. They started running it the same way. He said once they started running things the same way, you could do investigations into things that were really going wrong. But that first thing saved about, I don't remember how, you can figure out what an hour and a half is out of 24 hours a day. It's not a small amount of production they were losing. And if you put that straight to the bottom line, that went from losing money to breaking even, which was a huge thing for them. Then he said you could start seeing what the other problems were because every shift there wasn't an upset. So you could start seeing where there were other things we could fix. He said within about 2 months, we were making money. So I heard about the 5-day, and I went to the plant manager and said, listen, can we go to the 5-day course? He said, you got it, go. So they all went to the 5-day course in Orlando. They went back with even more ways to improve performance, more good things they can do, optional techniques, Equifactor, whatever, and they started applying that. And they got even more improvement. That won them they had some kind of annual corporate award for performance improvement, and they didn't even know what it was, but what they found out was they were flying a corporate jet to go get them, to fly them to New York to have dinner with the CEO. It was a French-run company, and so this guy was flying over from France to New York. He didn't want to fly down to Bodum, whatever it was, Texas. So he had them flown up to New York, so they got to dinner in New York. And they were like, woo, corporate jets are pretty cool, especially when you're a plant operator. You get the corporate jet to fly you to New York to have dinner with the CEO at a fancy restaurant. That's good stuff. So they got back from that, and they saw this thing about the summit and said, well, why not? So they asked the my best part of the story probably. They asked the plant manager, they go to the summit. He said, you got it. They went to the summit. They're all having a good time. They went back home. Now, here's the bad part of the story. You'd think that would be an internal success story for the company, right? It was, right? The CEO had them to dinner. But somebody at corporate found out they were using an unapproved root cause analysis tool. That was not the company's root cause analysis tool. That was some foreigners outside the company's root cause analysis tool. And they had to use the company's root cause analysis tool. And guess what? They made them stop using it. That is the most bizarre part of the story that I think. But I still think about the guys and how happy they were at that summit because they finally found out how they could fix problems. And these were mainly operational and maintenance kinds of problems. Once they had the every shift thing, then a lot of it had to do with getting good equipment reliability, good process reliability, not making mistakes, and they got really good at that. So I always hope that even though they told them they couldn't use it anymore, they still did anyhow. That's a lot of years now. I don't know where Jeremy is anymore. I haven't seen him at a summit since then because, once you get told that's naughty, you can't do that, corporate says. And I don't see how, I guess I understand how big corporations work. I guess I understand how the CEO can fly you up to go take you out to dinner, and then somebody else on a corporate staff can say, no, you can't do that, because it's a big corporation and sometimes they just make crazy rules, right? And you wonder, how do they stay in business? And you don't know. But those are my 3 stories that really frequently stick in my mind. There's a bunch of other ones, and if you get me aside some other time, I'll tell you a whole bunch of stories. But I think 3 is enough for now to get you the idea of, it really does make a difference what you do. And I bet each one of you out there have at least one success story in you of something you've done that has made a big difference. And you should feel proud of that, because it really is tough sometimes in corporate environments to, you'd think it'd be easy. You think improvement would be easy, but there's blame involved, right? Sure, none of you have ever seen blame involved, have you? There's ridiculous cost-cutting measures where we slit our own throat by cutting costs because, I don't know, who knows, we got to meet quarterly, whatever, right? There's changes in management, and the new guy comes in and says, I like 5 whys, because I've heard that's really good stuff. Never tried it myself, but I could ask it one day. And then there's just corporations selling stuff off and buying stuff, and the craziness that goes on in the corporate world. So you've got all the challenges that make it hard to do your job, but you overcome and persist. And I think that's really important. I think that's what Tammy said today. He talked about persistence. Where'd you go, Tammy? There you are. Talking about persistence. That just really hit home with me. Persistence is what you got to have. And Rickover, another Rickover saying, I mentioned one earlier today, another Rickover saying was that a good idea never got implemented on its own. You have to persist, you have to persist, you have to persist. You have to drive it, forcefully drive it into implementation. And he was one who battled against the system and really worked hard to get excellence in the Navy where there really wasn't excellence to start with. I mean, he was talking about the 7 guys who died in his a 9-month period, 7 guys dying, and they thought it was a successful cruise. That wouldn't be a successful one for Rickover.
Those stories should offer some great encouragement to you in what you do every day. You all are making these successes come true when you go and you're implementing TapRooT and you're using it to save those lives and to save money in your departments. That's what you do, and we are so honored to be partnered with you all to have these successes. We would love to hear about them. If you have some successes that you think other people would love to hear and would encourage other people, please share those below in the comments. It's so important that everybody learns from everybody else, and that's kind of why we do what we do here on TapRooT TV. We are here to help encourage and to teach and to help people improve their programs, and we want to hear from you because you all are the boots on the ground out there doing these things every single day. But say you're a company that hasn't implemented TapRooT yet and you want to know how to do that. Well, you just contact us at info@taproot.com and we're happy to help you. We're happy to show you a roadmap on what it takes to push TapRooT through your company and to get some of these successes. It's really not hard. It's as easy as starting out going to a public course, and we have them all over the world. With COVID-19 right now, we're kind of pushed back we're hoping to start back up in June. Fingers crossed that, everybody's going to get back to normal soon. The way to find out is to make sure you're signed up for our newsletter. If you're not signed up for our newsletter, because that's how we push out information to everybody and make sure you know what's going on with TapRooT, whether it's public courses or just new things that we're rolling out all the time, or just getting some good general information out there about root cause analysis and incident investigations. Sign up for that newsletter. You go to our website, taproot.com, scroll to the end of the page, and you can sign up right there. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you know when we are rolling out videos. We do them every single week, but sometimes we do them in the interim, so we want to make sure you don't miss those as well. We want to thank you for joining us today, and we hope to see you back here next week.